Hello and welcome to this video explainer on Nigeria's economic structure. You can see the country of Nigeria there with its flag as a background, and you can see lots of the different industries within Nigeria. So you've got sort of more informal market industries here, the oil industry, the communications commission and banking and things like that. So Nigeria's got a varied economy. And really what we're looking at are these key terms. So we're going to be considering what the industrial structure is of Nigeria. So all that means is what are the relative proportions of the workforce employed in different sectors of the economy. So what percentage of people are working in primary, what percentage are working in secondary, what percentage in tertiary, and what percentage in quaternary. Primary industries involve gathering raw materials from the earth, and the major one in Nigeria will be farming. The major income earner for primary industries from Nigeria will be crude oil. Okay, secondary industries involves making, building or processing those raw materials into finished products, usually in factories. So in the terms of crude oil, it will be using a refinery to turn it into things like petrol and diesel and jet fuel and so on. A tertiary industry will provide a service, so shops, banking, accountancy, that sort of thing. Those are all tertiary industries. And quaternary industries do high-tech research to develop new things. So, plastics and things like that, healthcare, drugs, all those sorts of things, digital industries, those all count as quaternary industries, and they involve research and development. Okay, the economy of Nigeria is changing, and it is shifting from primary-based economy reliant on farming and extractive industries to one which is making more money or gross domestic product from manufacturing industries and service industries. And I'll show you a graph on that. Despite those changes, Nigeria is definitely a country divided economically. There's many people still working farming, and the wealth's not well distributed between the very, very wealthy, and there are some very, very wealthy people in Nigeria, and the very poor. Okay, so it is a country of extremes. You can see there an oil refinery in Port Harcourt. And across here you can see the financial district on Victoria Island in Lagos. So according to the World Bank, Nigeria is not a low-income country. It's a middle-income country. So we'd class it as a newly emerging economy. Its gross national income is over $5,000. That's well above the value needed to be out of the low-income country classification. And for a decade between 2004 and 2014, the economy was growing at 7% a year, and the UK economy doesn't grow anywhere near that. Okay, the oil industry has been one of the main drivers of change, but if you look at the graph, there's a huge range now of different jobs that people do. So you've got accommodation, food, transport, education, farming, fishing, and forestry still make up a big chunk. Manufacturing, retail. Repair operations, managerial. There's a lot of different sectors that people are working in, and a lot of different industries like banking, cement, oil refining, construction, and so on. You can see all of those there. As you can see over time, the percentage of people working in primary has declined over time. Okay, so the percentage of people working in farming and fishing and so on is declining, and that's slowly being replaced by tertiary industries and some manufacturing. Nigeria's got huge economic potential. It's got a massive national domestic market. Its population's rising. It also has a really good position in West Africa, a geographical position, because it's on the Atlantic Ocean. It's got ports as well to ship things out across to other countries in West Africa, Europe and North America. It's got human resources. It's got plentiful natural resources like oil, and it has got its own large corporations or companies. But it has got some limits to growth as well. So some of the infrastructure, particularly in the north, is poor. It's got limited access to financial services. The electricity is an unreliable supply. Job creation is limited by import and export taxes. It's got a reliance on agriculture in certain parts, that keeps a lot of people in poverty. It's got poor governance at times and ongoing instability. There's problems with corrupt politicians and terrorist attacks by a group called Boko Haram in the north. There's disputes over land and water and access to government resources. The Niger Delta continues to be fragile. and it's only been democratic for a short period of time. Okay, and then economic issues and inequalities. Despite it being Africa's largest economy per person, it's not a rich country. Estimates show that approximately 60 million people live below the national poverty line, and another 60 million people are not far above it. Most of those people live in poverty are in the north, and I'll show you a map on that in a minute. And more than 3/4 are in rural areas. It has 15% of the world's country out of school and 10% of the world's child and maternal deaths. And many girls and women are excluded from opportunities. Okay, and then just a few facts here from Oxfam. The combined wealth of Nigeria's 5 richest men, which is nearly $30 billion, could end extreme poverty at national level, and yet 5 million people face hunger. The amount of money that the richest Nigerian man can earn annually from his wealth is sufficient to lift 2 million people out of poverty for 1 year. Women represent 60 to 79% of Nigeria's rural labour force, but are 5 times less likely to own their own land than men. And then between 1960 and 2005, about $20 trillion was stolen from the Treasury by public office holders. So that's a sign of corruption. And it spent just 6.5% of its national budget on education and 3.5% on health. And if you compare that with neighbouring Ghana, they spent 18.5% and 12.8% respectively. Okay. And you can see there, like the climate changes as you go north, so does poverty. Okay, so away from these coastline settlements, as you move further and further north into the rural areas where there's increased aridity and deserts, you've got increased poverty. There are hopes for Nigeria. The big hope is manufacturing, and we're going to look at that again on the next video. But it's a very important sector of an economy because it stimulates other industries. So they take primary industries and turn them into usable goods. So they might take cocoa beans and turn them into chocolate. Okay, it's very important for newly emerging economies because the price they receive for primary goods is low, whereas secondary goods command a higher price. So if you took, if you put an oil refinery into Nigeria, like the Warri oil refinery, a new manufacturer such as Shell start refining oil in Nigeria. Local firms provide Shell's refinery with components of products. Local people earn more money. Local people then spend more money in local businesses. The taxes to the government goes up from businesses and people. The government spends more money on infrastructure and attractions to bring in more manufacturing industries. You get more new manufacturers. So that is a positive multiplier effect, which brings in direct money to the country and indirect money as well. And we'll be looking at Shell as an example on the next video. Okay, so we'll just finish up with a little joke. The Nigerian National Oil Company used to be called NEPA, N-E-P-A, and Nigerians joked that it stood for Never Expect Power, Always.